right, hello again. This is Ben Hitchcock Cross talking to you today. I am just kind of rolling along with Birmingham v. Ground Crew Services. I told you I wouldn't do it, but I said I wouldn't tell nobody, but here I am. Just couldn't keep it to myself. So Birmingham versus Ground Crew Services. Yeah. What really is fascinating to me about this is Attorney Mamalakis doesn't quite see what's coming at him, and it seems like there's a big train coming down the station called Doug Carroll, um, who's gunning for Bear, bearing for gun, something, something for something, um, loaded for Bear. How about that? That's, I think we got it. And so we've got here what seems a kind of jumble-ish, even though tough first examination by Doug Carroll. Take a look at that, and then he basically reserved the right to call the owner back. But then, and I know he's going to call the complainant. And so the last of the testimony we got into was kind of interesting about this like quasi discipline, the setting the expectations kind of conference. Um, and the attorney is there at the conference, but Doug got on the record that he's not acting as an attorney. He's acting as a business. And now this is the word we got confused. It's not counselor, but he's just basically assisting, and he's acting as a part of the business. I don't know. We didn't get into the pay arrangement or anything else, but I'm shocked. They would shut me down. That's the only thing. Last thing I'm going to say on this one is we do notice at the ERD there's a difference between represented and the pro se, how those are handled. Now I think I'm going to posit that there's a lot of things that Doug Carroll's doing that I would be doing. And maybe I learned them from him. Who knows? Couldn't deny it. Someone asked. The point is, I want to, if we see Doug's tell, I'm going to totally call that out. But we'll see. And what I'm saying is, I don't think I'd be able to get this far. I'm way more hemmed in. Maybe I got a reputation. Who knows? We'll see what happens. All right. Last time I did this, no sound for like hours, and OBS is a beautiful thing, but geez.
Back on the record then, and then Attorney Carroll, I think you said Mr. Birmingham was going to be the next witness.
Yes, I'm calling Michael Birmingham.
All right, so sir, if you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Doug took his
Yes,
jacket
I do.
off. Looking
All
good.
right. And could you just state your name and spell your last name for me, please?
Michael Birmingham, Birmingham.
All right, Attorney Carroll, you can go ahead.
Thank you. And Mr. Birmingham, can you tell us your home address? 1629 East Sunset Drive, Unit 208, Waukesha, Wisconsin. Is there anything physically or mentally preventing you from providing complete and honest testimony today? No, there's not. Are you under the influence of any prescription medication or any other substances? No. Thank you. What's your date of birth? August 6, 1978.
Oh my goodness.
So the relevant time period here would be December of 2018 through February of 2019. How old were you at that time? I was 41.
I remember their audio was not great. I'm going to pause just for a second on this one. Wall art for offices is not easy. Not easy. And you have to find something that's both interesting and non-offensive simultaneously. And that is not easy. And something that you are going to want to look at for the next 20 years. That is not an easy call. Luckily, I have people in my office who go on trips with really good taste, and then people who just give me art from time to time. But that's something we try to invest in. You'll see some firms, like whatever. It's just a thing that firms have money and they invested in art, and depending on the scale or whatever. But there is something like school districts too, because it get all sorts of things. They just have a lot of good art, and so I do encourage you to look around. But I'm just saying, uh, especially even these days when you can just go to Costco and get something print. It's just tough. It's just tough. It's like it's very similar to on hold. It's like almost no good choice.
And you're aware of this, your complaint, you filed your complaint without an attorney.
Yes, that's correct.
And when did you hire, did you have any help from an attorney during the investigation process?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. So we came to
Now
Doug with
let's
this
talk
case
about your
ready
employment
to
at
go.
Ground Crew Services.
You come to me with the probable cause in a hearing, I will be very interested.
How did you become aware that they were hiring?
I saw their ad on Indeed.com.
And what did you do?
I submitted my resume.
And kind of walk me through the application and interview process.
Well, I believe I submitted the resume online, and within a few days, Michael had reached out to me through a phone call to set up a meeting interview at their office, and I had come in and sat down with him in his office, and we had an interview.
Did he communicate what he was looking for?
Yes, he did.
What did he communicate?
He was looking for someone to help him grow his business, help consult him with different expertise in the landscape industry, help out with office and operations management, help take a lot of the duties.
And I get these a lot where there's a situation where low level business, even startup struggling business, that invites sort of like a number two guy to come in who's got other experiences possibly at a bigger place, and they're looking to exploit to get all of his sort of institutional knowledge and all that as much as possible. But then they also get extremely threatened. Don't know what's happening here, but they get extremely threatened, statistically speaking, when the number two guy outpaces them because it's a mom and pop shop, and it's their connection. I mean, it's not a irrational
That
fear.
his wife was doing
important.
lessen her workload.
And this is literally a mom and
And
pop
what
shop.
information did you convey to him about how you could help with that?
I firstly went over my experience.
He's leading.
Was a manager for the Chicago Public School Systems in Chicago, managing 130 public schools, grounds maintenance, which is similar business to what he does. So I had a lot of experience in that field, and I also was currently working as for a large commercial construction landscape company, and I had additional experience in that field as well.
There was an echo, I'm sorry.
By using both of those backgrounds, I was able to augment and expand his business.
Now, can you explain the difference between commercial construction and commercial landscape construction and, say, landscape maintenance?
Yeah, landscape maintenance is mainly maintaining a property that's already been landscaped. The duties usually entail mowing, fertilizing, trimming the bushes, but that's what the crews would do. But the maintenance manager would be scheduling, routing, costing the jobs, making sure everything was efficient, using the best practices, products, pricing, costing, and then selling more of those contracts and seeing where you can find efficiencies.
So that's the maintenance.
Yeah, that's more the maintenance side.
And what's commercial landscape construction?
Commercial landscape construction is a little bit of a different animal. It's kind of a more mechanized, approach where you take a kind of a blank slate and install and develop and some design work, installing
I would just call
and
that landscape
establishing
architecture.
the landscape from scratch, basically, for
Sometimes these
renovations.
don't you feel like
So that
these
would be
definitions get
more
way
new
too?
construction, grading, and building
The
the
judge knows what's going
landscaping
on.
as compared to maintaining it.
Yes.
Now, did Mr. Stravopoulos convey to you what ground crew focused on at that point and what they were looking for and what you could bring?
Yes, he did.
Go on.
They, at the time, they were mainly focused on maintenance accounts, mowing and fertilizing, some minor tree work, some minor upsells and plantings, more of the maintenance side, snow removal, trying to expand their accounts, selling more of these services, and trying to do these services more efficiently.
Okay. Now, you were ultimately hired for the position,
Yes, I was.
and I'd like you to take a look at Exhibit C4.
Okay, so he's hired, so there's
It'll be up on the
employment
screen,
relations.
too, if you don't want to page
Okay.
through all of that. And you heard the testimony that this was an offer letter.
Yes,
Is the start date in there accurate? Is that the date they started?
I believe it is. Yes.
Okay. And the starting pay is accurate?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, when you began working, who did you report to?
I reported to Michael, and also I worked with Tasa for a minority of the time, majority of the time for Michael.
Now, take a look at Exhibit C5, please. If you look under my duties and responsibilities on that document, it says TBD, correct?
Yes.
So when you came in, what was there anything conveyed to you about what your duties were to be and what your assignments were?
Yes.
What was that?
Initially, it was learning service autopilot, becoming familiar with the system, doing routing and dispatching of the different jobs that needed to be done.
And who gave you that assignment?
Tasa did.
And any other assignments during the?
I learned job costing using service autopilot, where I would take existing accounts and cost what their contract price was, if it was profitable or not, and I had a target gross profit margin to meet, and if it was there, the contract was good and was to be resent out. If it wasn't met, we'd have to adjust it to bring it to where it needed to be, and then we would just resend it out to existing customers,
We know Stavros is
as well as new customers. We would
Stavropoulos.
try to send out new proposals based on estimating guidelines that were in place.
Anything else as far as job duties?
I was also soliciting bids for commercial construction projects and developing my estimating software and takeoff software.
When you say developing your estimating software, what was that?
I used Excel spreadsheet, and then we also had a program called eTakeoff, so I was downloading that and updating the information on there.
And was that with respect to the maintenance or the commercial construction end?
Commercial construction.
So there wasn't anything in their systems for commercial construction?
No, not at the time.
And this guy is he's got knowledge because he'd worked at, I guess, Chicago public schools, a major school district, doing the actual work and managing the people. Probably a way bigger operation than this one. And then had some, but not very much, as much commercial experience. So he clearly knows how to bid projects. He didn't get that at the schools.
So at some point in your employment, you met Attorney Mamalakis, correct?
Damn.
Yes. Can you tell me about that?
There was a meeting where he had came in and sat down with myself, Michael, Tassa, and Nikos Stravopoulos, which is Michael and Tassa's son.
Now, did he introduce himself?
He introduced himself as Emo, and
Did he give you his last name?
Emo.
I don't believe so.
That's totally the dude.
Did he explain what his role was?
Not really, no.
Tell me what happened at that meeting.
Awesome.
He said he went over how he felt that the company should be using its time to complete certain tasks to get the company functioning in a direction of his experience and how he felt the company should be moving.
Dude. Sorry. This is your opportunity as a witness to say what it is that you want to say about what happened here. And that answer to me sounds like an answer that they would give. So, I mean, the impression I've got is that Emo's coming in there and telling him how it's going to be and giving directions and trying to control him. Direction, control. Those would be the two big words I tried to get in there a couple of times.
Did anything he said at that meeting affect your role and duties?
It did. He gave us an additional task.
Good. I mean, he got there. He got
to work on together. That was creating an inventory system.
Tell me about that.
All right, Doug.
He had us catalog office supplies first and determine how much we used, starting from everything from pens and paper clips to reams of paper to note cards and
how about salt?
Pins, any minor item. And then when we were complete with that, we were to move on to landscaping supplies such as amount of fertilizer, type of fertilizer,
Great.
amount of tape, screws, any item that we had in stock, staples, landscape staples,
You can put in the software.
Just any salt, how much salt we used at the time, how many shovels, just take inventory of what we had and how frequently we used it, and would need to order more and create a system based off of that.
Now, after that meeting, did you have any conversations with Michael and Tassa about the priority of your job duties?
Yes, I did.
Here, so I hope we can handle it.
Tell me about those discussions.
I was to work on what he had instructed us to do with Nico, and that was one of my duties, which I worked on with Nico. It was kind of a work in progress, but my main priority was costing. I was told my main priority to do was costing the current contracts and get them out so they were so the customers had received them in a timely manner so they could sign them and return them, and we could have our account set up for the upcoming season. So that was their main priority and my main focus, and that's what I did.
Was there any other communication about Attorney Mamalakis?
Yeah, I mean, Michael said,
Oh,
you
is
know,
that Telegram?
work on what I needed to do and don't worry so much about what email wanted me to do. The other stuff was more of a priority.
So I'd like to talk to you about what your wages were at the position. I'd like you to take a look at Exhibit C4.
I mean, you should at least acknowledge that the judge is your secretary here. In my opinion, she's more than happy to do it. Very kind about it, but still.
Are accurate?
Yes, $24 an hour was accurate.
Now, was there a period of time where your hourly rate was higher than 24?
Yes, it was for doing snow removal work and overtime as well.
Well, so did this guy know he was going to be a snow plower from the get-go? Looks like it. It doesn't say that in there, though, does it?
I'd like you to take a look at a document, Exhibit C11.
Judge, if you would, please. Thank you, Judge. I appreciate it.
Can you see that, or
Okay.
should I make it a little
Yes,
bigger?
I can see it.
Okay.
Maybe a little bigger, or zoom in.
Or you can
I can look at my.
it's right near the bottom of the stack I gave you, all the way down there.
Was it Control Shift plus plus?
That 9 is really long. It's stapled together too at the top, so.
Please get rid of that side. Pain. Side pain. What is called pain? Now, I'm guessing that Doug is not writing out his questions verbatim.
So this exhibit is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-page document, correct?
So was he getting 26 for a plow hour?
And I'd like you to look at the first page.
Or is it an addition?
Okay. Can you tell me what that is?
The heck is 30?
Role summary. So it shows that your gross pay at ground crew service was $7,765.75.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes, I believe so.
And the following pages are individual pay stubs?
Yes, they are.
And we said your start date was December 10th?
Yes.
When was your last day of employment?
Now that I think about it, I don't know how I would do that.
Of what year?
Does anybody know that how you do? There's 2 rates of employment, when the overtime kicks in and what the rate is for the overtime. I mean, obviously it's 40 hours in a week. But the way that they've got him doing it there is he could be plowing overtime, but still only getting the time and a half rate for the office work. Huh. I don't know the answer.
2019.
So you worked for ground crew services 7 weeks and 4 days,
Yes, that sounds
Oh,
about
come
right.
on.
and we can figure out what your weekly pay would have been by dividing the number of weeks and days you worked by the pay you received.
Yes,
Does $1,025.85 per week sound accurate?
yes, it does.
Now, you said that your last day of work was February 1st of 2019. When did you start working again?
April 15th, 2019.
And how much were you making in that new role?
Started out at salary 50,000.
And are you still in that role?
I am still in that role.
And is your salary still 50,000?
No, it is not.
So when did your salary go above 50,000?
April 15th, 2020.
And what did it go to then?
65,000.
Okay.
What?
Now let's talk about the termination of your employment.
Yeah, let's do
You
that.
said your employment ended on February 1st of 2019.
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
I shouldn't complain that much. The guy has been in. I mean, we're not even an hour and a half into the thing, but I would like. I mean, I want to hear about the. I want to hear about the.
Almost to the end of the business day, I believe it was around 2 o'clock. Michael asked me to meet him and Emo at a local restaurant down the corner
Sounds
from
about right.
the office location. So when I finished my duties at that time, I met them at the restaurant.
Please
and they
tell
were
me it
both
was a
there.
diner.
So we sat down, and Emo proceeded to tell me that I was not a fit for his company and that he was going to let me go.
Why
Can you
is
provide us with the exact words used during that conversation? Kind of run us through it with as much detail as you can.
why is that
So-
dude? Wait. If they knew all that from the get go. Oh, because there's another dude. No. Okay. An attorney can be conflicted out if they are a necessary witness. So, for example, in Wisconsin, there is a case, and this is we've heard this in the Ashley Merchant. I think that's been in that one a couple of times there, which they have a similar rule in Georgia. It's like this: an attorney is a witness, can be conflicted out if they're a witness, if they're basically the only witness. If there's anything else in the state, Wisconsin one is there's basically a recording of the conversation. So we don't need to ask the attorney what happened because that should be our last resort. That's basically the theory is if we have some other kind of evidence. Okay. So the Stravopolis guy is going to be, it's not, the party is not enough. If it's one on one and they can't say their side of the story of it, that dude just can't be there. So if the Stravopolis guy is there and we can ask him what was said, then we don't need Mamalakis necessarily as a witness. Right? But there's still a bigger problem because just assuming what Birmingham said was true. Okay. I don't know what they've litigated up till this point, but let's just assume what he said was true. You're not a good fit for my company. That means he's the decision maker. He can't be the attorney. Because who else is a witness to his private thoughts? So I'm like baffled. Now, Doug doesn't have to say anything. He doesn't. at all. He does not have to say. He can, if strategically, if it's to his benefit to have Mamalakis up there and to kind of embarrass him and just leave it alone, and so he backs the heck off and doesn't prosecute it as well. Or I don't know what other strategy he might have. One can imagine. Perfectly acceptable. This is an adversarial process. I'm just baffled because baffled. But we'll see what happens.
He had told me that
Dude,
I
come
was
on,
not
Emo. You got caught.
following his instruction, and he believed that I was displaying bad attitude towards him. I
Towards him,
was
Emo?
also told that I was too old. I was too experienced. I was not able to conform to what he wanted to do.
All right, I'm backing up here. Sorry.
Now let's talk about the termination of your employment. You said your employment ended on February 1st of 2019.
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
Almost to the end of the business day, I believe it was around 2:00. Michael asked me to meet him and Emo at a local restaurant down the corner from the office location.
I want to know
when
who said too old. You're
finished
too old.
my duties at that time, I met them at the restaurant, and they were both there. So we sat down, and Emo proceeded to tell me that I was not a fit for his company and that he was going to let me go.
Can you provide us with the exact words used during that conversation? Kind of run us through it in as much detail as you can.
So he had told me that I was not following his instruction, and he believed that I was displaying bad attitude towards him.
This is Emo. This is the attorney talking. Yeah, for sure.
Was also told that
I'm learning this sound. We'll get out of here.
I was too experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I was not able to conform to what he wanted to do, and he wanted someone who was younger, more enthusiastic. And about at that time is when I learned they had hired Elizabeth Swift, and she pretty much was going to be filling the duties that I was responsible for.
Now, during that conversation, when you were told you weren't doing what Emo wanted you to do, had you done the inventory project?
Yes, it was a work in progress. I was working on it with his son Nico.
No, I'm sorry. I'm confused as to who's speaking and who said too old here. It did like the attorney.
I have no further questions.
Damn, that's the way.
Attorney Mamalakis, do you have any questions for
dude.
Mr. Birmingham?
I do, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If this dude asked him about the conversation that he had with him, that's just like pro se town. Please, 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 will they make this document smaller? Please, so that we can see.
Good morning, Mr. Birmingham.
Good morning.
Your Honor, if you could, would you be able to post up Exhibit C5 of complainants for me?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
This is C5.
Yeah. Perfect. And would you be able just to pull back a little bit, because I just want to be able to get the if you go to 100%, there you go. Yeah, I want to be able to see that.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Birmingham, do you have a paper copy of this exhibit?
Thank you, Judge.
Are you dependent on the computer screen, or do you have a paper copy of it that you can read off
of? I have a paper copy available here.
Excellent. Under we covered this document before, and it's your understanding that this is essentially what they would have considered kind of your agreed upon job description. Is that accurate?
Well, that was the,
TBD.
I guess,
This is accurate as
Well,
TBD is, buddy.
what's your understanding of what this document is?
Ooh.
that is the formal job offer letter that was sent to me.
No, that would have been C4.
Oh. This dude's kind of lost me here. You're too old. It's just not, I mean, come on, dude. It is worse when you say it out loud. It really is.
I'm looking at C5.
Yeah, they were both sent together. They're
Yeah, so C4 is a job offer letter. That's a letter. C5 at the top reads position contract.
Dude, looking at somebody's
Do you
got a question mark.
Do you understand the nature of what a contract is, Mr. Birmingham?
Objection calls for legal.
I do understand the nature of a contract.
Okay, so you know the difference between a contract and a letter, correct?
Yes, they came as a package together.
I understand, but I just want to make sure I didn't want to assume anything. If there's anything you don't understand, and I don't want to make, I want to make sure that I'm not pressuring you into anything. So, of a contract, what's your understanding of what a contract is?
Contract lays out terms that bind an agreement between two parties.
Thank you. So, would you be comfortable saying that the items written in this contract reflect the terms that you and Mr. Stavropoulos came to when you came aboard at Ground Crew?
Well, roughly, it says TBD, so it's not in very much detail, and this is something that I've never signed either.
I understand.
You don't need to object
do you
if
believe
your
that
client
since you
can
didn't
answer
sign it,
questions.
that this is not accurate?
No, it's just very vague. It says to be determined for the most part as my
All
responsibility.
right, I'm liking
There's
this
really
guy.
Okay.
no
So you're
general
looking at,
information.
sorry, sometimes the audio, it's on a little bit of delay. So you stop me. Sometimes I think you're at a natural stopping point. So you stop me if you still have more to say, Mr. Birmingham. So you see the two sections that say TBD, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and under that second section of TBD, there's a section that could you see that says, I will meet these standards while working in this position.
Yes, I do.
Can you are you able to read those four for me, please?
Yes. It says I will meet these standards while working in this position. 1, positive attitude. 2, improve production with improved scheduling and increased efficiency. 3, look for new ways to improve production operations. And 4, redefine my roles as an operation manager as growth of the business necessitates.
He just, the tone, cadence, everything about his voice to me comes off as very authentic.
Okay. Do you find those four to be specific?
Who cares?
Generally, yes.
Okay. I'm just so although you mentioned in your testimony just prior that this contract was general, it you do understand those four items as to be rather specific.
He just said that.
I would kind of meet you in the middle there. I mean,
Is there anything on number one, positive attitude? Is there anything in there that you find confusing?
no.
And number two, improved production with improved scheduling and increased efficiency. Is there anything in
7
there that you
weeks
find
kind of
confusing?
undermines that.
No.
I'll skip 3 and 4 because I think we get the point. So in those, they seem to be pretty specific. You mentioned in your testimony that in your history, you had worked for the Chicago Public Schools commercial landscaping, and you worked for another large commercial landscaping company. When you worked for them,
This is
did
commercial
you have
landscaping for
some
public.
kind of a specific description of what they expected from you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. When they specifically stated to you what they expected of you, did you follow it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Is it your understanding when you worked for the Chicago public schools and the other contractor, if you had made a contract with them and they specifically laid out what they were looking for, and you decided not to follow it, would you believe that would have been grounds for termination?
Objection. Relevancy. The Chicago job doesn't have anything to do with this job, number one. Number two, this all is speculation.
Your Honor, absolutely none of this is speculation. I'm trying to lay the ground.
Nobody cares what this guy thinks about why people should be fired.
Work here of an understanding that Mr. Birmingham knew full well why he got fired. And we have to go with the first base elements of does Mr. Birmingham understand what is something that could be the basis of firing? So not just a ground crew, we're trying to see if there's a universal understanding wherever he's worked as to what constitutes getting terminated.
All right.
And I would argue that's completely irrelevant to the reason why he was terminated from ground crew services, Your Honor.
Well, that's your theory why he got terminated. Our theory is that he was justifiably terminated. So we have the right to show how he was justifiably terminated.
Good argument, bad.
From ground crew services.
Right.
From ground crew
services. I'm happy to, I guess I would, again, just renew the objection that other jobs aren't related to the reason that he was terminated from ground crew services.
His knowledge at other
I'm not saying they're related. I'm saying, does he understand? I'm not saying they're related. I'm just trying to get to the point of, does Mr. Birmingham understand what can get you fired in a job?
Let's just kind of focus in, like, let's even forget about, what you would have known working for the prior employers that you mentioned. I think the point of Attorney Mamalakis' question was just that had to do more with just general idea of if there's expectations or a contract that you have with an employer and you don't follow those expectations, or I should say don't meet those expectations and don't follow that, do you believe, Mr. Birmingham, that could be a reason for terminating someone's employment?
Fine. Not great, but fine.
Okay. So just to clarify what the judgment is, you do believe that if there's stuff laid out in the contract that you've agreed to and you don't follow it, that is perfectly permissible grounds for terminating someone. And are you of the belief that has nothing to do with somebody's age?
Whoa, that's irrelevant.
Objection, that's a compound question. He's asked two questions in there.
Yeah, let's do the first one first. Do you agree with the first part of the statement, Mr. Birmingham?
For a binding contract that I had signed, I would agree with that. For an employment contract that is just verifiable by being hired, I mean, I would respect the leadership of the company. Yes.
I'm so sorry, Your Honor. Would I be able to actually get an answer to my question? Because I don't understand what you just said.
Could you repeat your question then?
Do you believe that when you have a specific agreement laid out in a position contract and you don't follow that is grounds for termination?
In general, or pertaining to me in this contract specifically?
Bam. Okay. It's just nobody cares what this guy believes. We care what happened.
Well, in a signed binding contract, I would say yes. In just a general
you don't have
sense, if it's not signed, that's not really a binding contract.
But if you want to have a binding contract,
no,
then you're probably gonna not come out ahead.
So
there,
on the position contract that I have here, is it in order to understand your testimony? Is it your testimony that because you didn't sign it, You really didn't have to follow the standards set in that contract.
No. Tell me so.
Well, Your Honor, if I could just jump in here, maybe we can help out. I think some of the confusion is the fact that Attorney Mamalakis continually refers to this as a contract and it wasn't executed by both parties, and therefore it's not a binding contract. But I think the complainant and I are prepared to stipulate that he was an employee at will with the respondent. And I think that should sum up. And I think we're willing to stipulate that if an employee doesn't meet the legitimate expectations of the employee can be terminated. The issue in this case is whether or not they're trumping up this attitude thing as compared to what Attorney Mamalakis specifically said, I want to bring in someone younger.
Good way to get that in there. I think a more, how could I say, legalistic framing of it would be is the issue in here is there evidence of age discrimination or not, simply, and is there, and I think the word is legitimate business reason, fact or pretext. Pretext is basically a bunk. Legitimate business reason, illegitimate business reason. There we go. Okay, that's just the way to put it. But we're all saying the same thing.
So I would like to just get to that portion of this rather than argue about whether or not this is a binding contract when it wasn't signed, and whether or not, I mean, we'll stipulate he was an employee at will, and we'll stipulate if you don't follow what your employer expects out of you, you can be fired. We can stipulate to that and move on.
That is absolutely not what I'm doing. Attorney Carroll is completely wrong. On the page itself, at the top, the term that happened to be used was position contract. We are not stating that we think that this is some kind of signed contract. It's just the term that's used at the top of the page. And what's also, we're trying to do two items here. One, reference what it is that Mr. Birmingham has agreed to, and also exhibit for the court when you see Mr. Birmingham parsing, well, did I sign it or did I not sign it? It's an opportunity to show the court what it is that ground crew went through with Mr. Birmingham and their employee, of the fact that you couldn't just come to a simple agreement without Mr. Birmingham, with a not good attitude, constantly trying to parse or disrupt anything that was done. So it's sometimes helpful in these cases when you have live exhibits of exactly the issue that we had attitude-wise. We never said that this is a signed contract.
And Your
That's
Honor,
just the term that was used on the top of the page.
Your Honor, now counsel is testifying here.
No, I'm explaining, Mr. Carroll. You asked.
He's testifying here about my client's attitude. He pulls up this document, says this is a binding contract. My client says, well, no, I didn't sign it. It's not a binding contract. And now Attorney Mamalakis is saying, look, he's difficult because he didn't admit it was a contract. And he's
all right. Let's stop. I think we can move on from this. Let's move on, Attorney Mamalakis, with your next question.
Okay.
The problem is that's not making a decision.
During your testimony under direct, you mentioned that there was a meeting that took place that Mr. Stavropoulos, that Mike, Tasa, Nico, you and I were in. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you listed off the project when you mentioned that you were being asked to categorize items including fertilizer, salt, staples, other items. You were being asked to categorize all the items that were in and around the landscaping operation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You also mentioned that you were involved in scheduling, correct?
Yes.
Okay. In the morning, crews leave ground crew. Is that accurate?
Yes.
When the crews are dispatched from ground crew, what necessary information do you give them when you are scheduling them?
They get their, I believe it's their route sheet with their duties on there, where they needed to go, what they needed to do, what materials they needed to bring with them.
Hold on, sorry.
You kind of broke up there. So what I heard was they get a route sheet and with their duties on it. And then did you say they get information about the materials they're supposed to take with them as well?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So the last one that you
This is
pointed
about to
out
cut
here,
up.
Mr. Birmingham, that they also get a listing of what materials they need to bring with them. Are those materials included in the list of items that you were asked to start categorizing in that meeting you referenced?
All right. Well, now why I'm hooked is I really, really want to see if Mamalakis is testifying or not. Dang. All right. I want to see this one. Totally hooked. Do not, if I go through all of this with you all together, do not count this as a precedent because I'm expressly disclaiming it as such. Uh, let's do it. All right. Well, that was fun. I had a great time. You got to get back to the real world above ground. Take care. Have a good day.